In this lesson, we will consider the different schools of thought in relation to jurisprudence. Now, at the very outset, what you must understand in this introduction is that jurisprudence over a span of many centuries have been propounded in different ways by different academics and jurists. These different thoughts or these different theories have collectively been called schools of thought. Now, what jurisprudence entails is not just a theory of what law is, but more importantly, how it is to be understood and manifested in the context of the period of time where it was propounded, as well as in a very adjunct manner, why exactly that particular law is being manifested in that way. Now, you'd notice when we go through these lessons of this course, there are different ways in which people have thought of law. There are different ways in which people have thought law is to be manifested. And you'll notice that the motivations for certain people, let's say for example, Karl Marx on the one hand or Kelsen on the other, for thinking of law in certain ways is primarily based on the environment, the society and the times in which they lived. So without much further ado, let's jump into the introduction. Now, there are many different schools of thought. We are looking at 6 fundamental ones that are essential to understanding the concepts behind jurisprudence. The first type of thought or first type of school that we are going to consider is the natural law school. Natural law seeks to explain law as a phenomenon which is based on some higher form of morality or law. And it's supposed to be found, according to natural law theorists, in religion or reason. Positivism, on the other hand, is something which is made by man as opposed to God, religion or reason. And as opposed to having higher principles such as in natural law, there is a scientific approach that the theorists of positivism expound. So we'll look at that when we get to that particular lesson. The pure theory of law, on the other hand, states that you must consider law divorced from every other aspect of society, sociology, economy, history, and so on. So it must be something which is completely separate from every other aspect of society and the modern context or the modern world. The historical school, on the other hand, considers that laws are derived by gradual development and practices of man. It's something which is basically added to. Moreover, it attributes social pressure as opposed to political power to lawmaking. In other words, the historical school looks at the fact that laws are made by the actions of people over a span of time, as opposed to one particular individual or a group of individuals instilling laws in terms of one society versus another. A more interesting school of thought, in my opinion, is that of the sociological school. Positivists, on the one hand, think of law as being made, and historical thinkers consider it to be found. Sociological thinkers think it's both made and found. It looks at the legal system from a functional point of view. So once we go into this particular lesson, you'll see why it's interesting and how it differs quite substantially from many of the other schools. One of the idealistic aspects of jurisprudence can be seen in Marxism. In Marxism, law is used by the ruling class as an instrument to keep the working class oppressed or to control them for the exploitation of labor. There are many aspects of this, and you could consider that Marxism has evolved over time. There are some who believe that it's still relevant and others who feel now more than ever it is redundant, so to speak. That was a quick outline and introduction into the different schools of thought or different schools of jurisprudence that we will be considering throughout this course. In the next lesson, we will begin our discussion by having a look at natural law. Thanks a lot for watching this video. Click on a subject of interest to learn more.